What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I'm Asif Badi. This is a clip from the YouTube show, so please do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and give me your thoughts in the comments section below. Without further ado, on with the show.
All right, a couple more things, man. Since we're speaking of the offense, Kevin Patullo, we just came off the Giants game, as you know, the most balanced that we've looked all year, and the play calling flow was as good as it's been all season long. And I think a lot of Eagle fans are looking at that and they're trying to find something that's different. And one of the things that they found different was that A.J. Brown was not in that game. And A.J. Brown all year has had inconsistent play. And what he says is based on the offense or the quarterback or whatever it is, cryptic tweets, cryptic IG posts, not being featured in the offense. What do you make of the A.J. Brown saga so far in this 2025 season? Because it's a mixed bag right now. A lot of fans are saying get rid of the guy. A lot of fans are saying, hey, get him the ball. And a lot of fans are just kind of like, hey, A.J. Brown, just shut the hell up. Take your money. You signed up for this. Just, enjoy the ride right now. You're winning football games. But again, I think he's trying to build legacy, and that's something that I've talked about in the past. But what are your thoughts on all of this A.J. Brown saga and this conversation regarding him in Philadelphia?
Okay. I think for those of you who, your viewers must be watching Jacob to see you talk. So for all those who watch the Jacob post game show, I've been very, very clear about my position on this. And that is that I don't know what everybody, I can tell you what everybody's been saying because they tell me to my face. Sandra tells me to my face, oh, he's trying to build a Hall of Fame career. He wants to get Hall of Fame numbers. He needs to provide for his family. Which, by the way, his family is totally fine.
Oh,
they're
just fine.
I thought about that after I went off the air, and Xander's giving me this whole thing about like he needs to provide for his family, and I'm like, wait a second.
He already got the money.
Contract in Philadelphia.
He's fine.
Like even when he signed for the Birds, we signed him. We signed him to a huge money deal. Like, what are we talking about? Provide for his family.
Yeah, right.
But for me, like there are many different ways to be a Hall of Famer, and since A.J. Brown has been in Philadelphia, A.J. Brown has been to 2 Super Bowls. Same applies, as I've said, to the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And A.J. Brown has played a big part. In his first season in Philly, he broke the record for the most receiving yards and catches, I believe, in the Philadelphia Eagles season.
I think he had the yardage mark, and I think Devontae had the catches thing.
It
was something like that. It was something along. But yeah, he record-setting season for the Philadelphia Eagles.
He's breaking. That's what I'm saying, right? He's breaking franchise records, and he also, by the way, you mentioned in the meltdown season the amount of 1,000-yard games. That was also a record-breaking in NFL history. The most amount of
6 games of 125 plus yards.
No one has ever accomplished that in the game. So we're talking about a Hall of Fame resume. He's already breaking NFL records. You don't need to break all the records. You don't need to shatter everything in specific spots. If you're doing that, mixing it with playoff success, winning rings, being part of a great team. And Xander laughed at me when I brought up Jerry Rice. But as many great records as Jerry Rice brought, what do you remember the most about Jerry Rice? He played with Joe Montana, and the two of them had a monopoly over the National Football League. They were winning rings left, right, and center. He was a winner. He was the greatest winner from the wide receiver position, I'd say, outside of, and this is a completely different opposite side of the spectrum, like a Julian Edelman who won a lot of rings, not necessarily, destroying the stat sheet, but
he has 3 Super Bowls himself, though, right?
Right.
So I guess because I have a different position on you than this. Because
Yeah.
Go on.
No, you go. I want to hear because let's go back for something.
Because again, I made an episode on this just recently on how I think A.J. Brown is trying to build a legacy, and he has the talent to be a Hall of Famer, which is the more exclusive club of the National Football League. Wide receivers in the Hall of Fame, the only ones that you said winning Super Bowls, Michael Irvin, Jerry Rice, but outside of that, all of those guys, Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, potentially Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Andre Johnson. I mean, Marvin Harrison has one, but All those guys are not known for being quote unquote winners. They're
Okay,
more-
can I rebut that because
Yeah, please. No.
this is my logic is different, right?
Yeah, go on.
Not everybody's when you assess a person's career, and I know there's that guy who comes on Dan's show at least once a week. He's one of the voters for the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah,
right?
Jason Cole, I think is his
Jason
name.
Cole, right? Yeah. And even Jason Cole said himself, he said, when we're looking at resumes for Hall of Famers, we look at each player's profile and each player's case in different ways. So for the cases of the players that some of you mentioned, who are by the way some of the most talented receivers ever put up incredible numbers, they weren't part of winning teams.
Right.
They weren't part of winning teams. They needed those incredible numbers to give them Hall of Fame resumes. When for AJ's numbers don't need to be as great as long as he's winning rings, the rings also elevate that into the conversation. So his numbers may not be as great, but his rings, it's kind of like when you put him on a balance, right? So on that scale, maybe let's say it's a point system. You got X amount of points for yards and touchdowns and records, X amount of points as well for rings. So he might be losing some points in the yards and the touchdowns and the statistical categories, but those points then get made up. Let's say he wins, stays on the Eagles, we don't trade him, and he wins 2 rings and he's been to 3 Super Bowls. That 2 rings, by the way, is not many people. It sounds like a low number, but not many people, receivers in the Hall of Fame, can claim that they have 2 rings.
Right.
That's a rare group, and he's been the best. And let's be honest, even now, he's still the X wide receiver, the best wide receiver on the Philadelphia Eagles.
100%.
An elite wide receiver, the greatest wide receiver I will say that the Eagles have ever had.
Totally agree. Even better than Terrell Owens. We've had
T.O., we've had Harold Carmichael. I would throw Deshaun Jackson in that category because I thought Deshaun Jackson was phenomenal in his period of time. But AJ's better than all of them. So already he owns records for the Philadelphia Eagles while he's winning Super Bowls, being to Super Bowls. So winning 2. If let's say I'm doing this year, I'm getting way too.
I know. Let's say jumping the guy. I get it.
But this is my argument for it. Because he could easily get traded this season and be on a non-contending team, and not be in that position to win another title. This is the reason why I've said it, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not necessarily counting the win. I'm saying that.
No, I got you. Right?
I
understand. Yeah, 100%.
So that raises the level. He doesn't need to break all those records. All those other guys weren't winning anything. They weren't even playing in playoff games, let alone being in Super Bowls. They absolutely needed to eat as much as they could during the regular season and fill up that stat sheet. Randy Moss was at a Super Bowl with an undefeated New England Patriots team and couldn't get the job done.
Right. Well, Terrell Owens got to the Super Bowl too, and he lost in Philadelphia, right? Had the game on the broken fibula, right? He had the 100-yard performance on that game. And
what happened to Terrell Owens? Great, by the way, I love that you brought his name up because Terrell Owens came to Philadelphia in the following year, kicking and screaming about Donovan McNabb and his usage and him getting the ball, and he held out of training camp, and the Eagles had to get rid of him because he's such a nightmare. And where did he go? He decided, of all the places I want to go in all the National Football League, I'm going to go to the organization that is absolutely allergic to winning, the Dallas Cowboys. And what happens to him that next season? Tony Romo, fumbles the snap on a field goal. They lose. They keep blowing it and blowing it and blowing it. They had some great regular seasons together in his Cowboys year with playing with Romo, and they would go to the playoffs and absolutely choke the house out. That was his career. Then he was at Buffalo and Cincinnati, really, really.
He bounced around then. Yeah,
you know what I mean. His career goes downhill from there. Antonio Brown, who won a Super Bowl ring with the Pittsburgh Steelers, he started having these issues.
Tampa Bay. They went with Tampa Bay.
I mean, again, he also won with Tampa Bay, right? So he's got 2.
Does he have 2? I thought
he won with Pittsburgh. In he was his first or second season when the Steelers beat the Cardinals. Antonio Brown, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
But, that guy could have been one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. But what mistake did he make in his career? He started acting like an absolute jerk. Like
that
oh,
might have been
Terrell Owens.
that might have been Perfect's fault. That might have been Montez
Yeah.
Perfect's fault.
But-
knocking him upside the head.
But Terrell Owens, right, did make it to the Hall of Fame, but he was denied on many occasions. There were so
which is
many
a crime,
people,
by the way. Which was a crime.
I know, but there are so many people because he was such an asshole
Mhm.
that fought tooth and nail to make sure that he couldn't get in, and he got in through the back door in the end of the day, right?
Mhm.
But AJ doesn't want to do that. AJ, this is my advice to you, right? Like, give it time, by the way, because all of a sudden the offense is looking good. The last time you did play a football game, you went over 100 yards, right? And I think you have to be fair to him and say some of the criticism that he was making of the offense was legit, and you have to sort of take that into consideration here. But after that, after he got his way, that's when he needs to stop talking. But he's still tweeting, and he still they put a microphone in his face because they know that they want something from him. If I was him, I would just shut up, because let's be fair. You're blessed to be on a team that's run better than anybody else. You're blessed to be on a team that has a formula for success. And you've made this season, that's one of the reasons why I've actually upgraded Nick Sirianni to an A in his grade. Because despite, and Jalen, if you're going to ask me Jalen, right? Despite all of the fucking noise that number 11 has provided. And by the way, I was thinking today, I have two number 11 jerseys in my closet. One that belongs to Carson Wentz and the one that belongs to AJ Brown. And I'm like, do not make me throw out another number 11 jersey. I just replaced my other one.
Yeah, right.
I've been shamelessly wearing a Carson Wentz number 11. I finally got an AJ 11, and I'm like, can you?
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
But
yeah.
That's another reason why I kind of. But at the end of the day, though, we're going to talk about. I think you're going to bring up Myles Garrett, and we were talking about the compensation that be for Myles Garrett. I got to be honest, right? Having seen the offense this weekend, I'm starting to think maybe give him 2 first rounders, not 3, and then chuck him an AJ.
Oh wow!
And I'm happy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're at that point where you.
I mean, just because of the fact that this is all up to him, because if the trade deadline closes and he's still opening up his trap and he's still being a distraction, he's not helping. In fact, you're just getting in the way, and you're being a piece of he should heed the warning of CJ Gardner-Johnson, right? Look at what CJ Gardner-Johnson is right now in his career. Fair. He started tweeting cryptically, "Where is his ass?" He's been cut twice just this season.
Yeah, now he's up in Chicago. Yeah, I gotcha.
Shut up, AJ. You're a great player. And CJ is a great player, right? Mm-hmm. And don't take away from CJ as well. He was a great player, important part of us winning. But I gotta tell you, I think Andrew Nakuba has got a higher ceiling already this season. That's the one move that I gotta give Howie a lot of credit for, which is having the balls to get rid of CJ, because clearly the other GMs in the National Football League, Houston, have a great GM, and he identified that CJ is a bit of a pain in the ass himself. He's willing to cut bait, and now we've got a guy who's on a rookie contract. He's already making plays in his rookie season, who's got so much way to go. I think that was a stroke of genius in terms of from how he's looking amazing in that point of view. But for AJ, I said this to Xander, and of course we're going to come up to the trade deadline, and I've just kind of spit out my thing on 2 different answers, on AJ and on Garrett. Mm-hmm. But I said, go home, AJ, open up that beautiful Jason of Beverly Hills ring box you got with the red ribbon on the outside. Open it, look at that ring, press the button, see the wings pop out, and ask yourself, do I want another one of these? Or do I want a few good stats? And do I want to, play in New England? I mean, it's an organization that's used to winning,
right?
But it's not going to win this year. And who's to guarantee the stats happen then? So I would just say it's all in your court. If you decide to be a good soldier, I don't see a reason why the Eagles would trade you, because if only thing it's gonna benefit this offense having one of the best receivers in the NFL. Mm-hmm. We can win another one. But if not, man, I've got an opportunity to sign the greatest defensive player in the league, to get the best player in the league. And I'm going A lot of trades are probably going to turn down for AJ because they don't benefit the Philadelphia Eagles. But if I can save myself an extra first round pick and put him in my back pocket and then get Myles Garrett, sorry, AJ, my offense is good enough without you. They just showed you that last week. And my defense is going to go levels, and we can win it in the way that we're used to win it, which is a great defense. You put Myles Garrett in the Eagles defense, and I don't see a way of anybody stopping us.
Wow. Yeah. I not that I don't want to, talk about that.
No,
I don't agree with you at all.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely don't think we should trade AJ. I think AJ is a necessity on this football team.
I do too, but as long as he keeps his mouth shut. I've said that as well in what I was saying, right?
But no, I agree with. And again, to that point, I will say yes, that's fair. Like he does need to kind of like, hey, brother, just like chill out. It's not the end of the world for you. But again, going back to that conversation we had before about regarding Super Bowl wins stacking up with stats and how they somehow equal out each other. If that's the case, then is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer?
I think he's got a case to be a Hall of Famer.
See, I think that's where I guess that's where the disconnect is between you and I.
Yeah, again, if I'm not, see, you're never going to catch me out on that and hear me say, no, I don't think he is, because then obviously I know where this conversation is going.
No, of course.
This guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
No.
I actually do think he's got a case.
It wasn't supposed to be a gotcha.
Again, what did I just say? Julian Edelman was the best wide receiver on a New England Patriots team that was dominating the NFL.
Right.
Like Tom Brady showed you, by the way, after Julian Edelman was gone in his last season in New England, how important the weapons were in New England. I think people are underplaying how good Julian Edelman is.
Gronk was also gone too. Like Gronk wasn't there in that year as well.
Oh wait, Gronk is also a Hall of Famer.
Greatest tight end to ever live, though. Greatest tight end to ever live.
Look, there's a certain guy who's about to get married to Taylor Swift who's going to have an argument in that conversation. But
I guess that's I don't know. I've never seen a tight end like Gronk who could block like a tackle.
I haven't seen a tight end like Travis Kelce. So
I've seen Tony Gonzalez in Kansas City who can do similar.
But did Tony Gonzalez win championships?
Travis Kelce's better, and there's no doubt about that. I'm just saying we've seen that type of archetype out of Kansas City before in Tony Gonzalez. They just didn't have Patrick Mahomes throwing in the football. I can guarantee you, if 15 was throwing Tony Gonzalez the football, we could only imagine what it would be like over there. But that's not the point.
So that's where totally deviated.
Yeah, that's a different conversation. In regards to AJ, I know you say like the Super Bowls can match up and almost offset the numbers, and winning can help that Hall of Fame.
Remember, AJ's also a better receiver than Julian Edelman, by the way.
100%. But listen, AJ Brown only has like 7,400 yards in his career.
He's still in his mid-20s.
He mid-20s. He's almost 30.
He's almost that way. How old is?
I think he's 28, 29. Like he's closing in.
28 years old. He's 28
years old, and he just signed an extension just last offseason, right? So,
hey, but my girlfriend's 28 years old. She is in the prime of her life. She's looking great. If AJ Brown is the same age as my girlfriend, he's not old. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking grandfather at 33. If AJ Brown is old.
Right. Right. Fair enough. Touche. I guess my point being is that we're also in an offense that's not necessarily pass heavy. We're in an offense that, again, right now
it's changing a little bit. I think it's being a little bit. That's what I'm kind of saying. But
it was also against
look at how we're changing
Giants.
the offense.
It was also against the New York Giants.
The same New York Giants who shut us down 2 weeks earlier.
After a game against the Denver Broncos. 2 games in 4 days on a short week, division rival, a game that I don't believe the Philadelphia Eagles are going out and saying, they were just like, we're just going to go out and smoke this team. And they got punched in the mouth. And honestly, in the beginning of that Giants game, before Cam Scatterbull got hurt, it was a tie football game. And they weren't marching down the field.
But you just said the New York Giants, also the Minnesota Vikings. I know they got their problems in the secondary. The Minnesota Vikings have got one of the best defensive coordinators there is in the league. That was an elite
and he
defense.
Inexplicably
schematically, at least.
And inexplicably kept blitzing Jalen Hurts when Jalen Hurts, after the loss to Tampa Bay in the playoff game, has shown consistently if you blitz.
That's one thing, by the way, I've been spoken about Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
He has now learned from that. He's now learned from that. He's matured. That's what I love about Jalen Hurts.
Absolutely. He always adds something to his game, to his credit, 100%. But again, I keep diverting from the AJ conversation, but Do you really think that Super Bowls weigh that much for other positions outside of quarterback, GM, coach, and owner? Because I can make an argument every other position, guys have been in, big games and have big playoff careers, but if they don't have the Super Bowl, like they don't have Super Bowls, but they have the numbers to back it up. Like Adrian Peterson, LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah, as I said, they're different conversations.
Frank Gore, been in big games.
But like
Barry Sanders.
It's one thing winning a Super Bowl ring in the back end of your career while you're ring chasing and you're not really one of the key components.
Like Matt Stafford, for example, is another guy who has all the numbers, who has a Hall of Fame resume type of career.
Right, but you know what? But let's be honest about this, right? If Matt Stafford never left Detroit to go to Los Angeles, we're not talking about him because
he's a quarterback. And that's my point. It's because he's a quarterback, and that Super Bowl carries that much more weight. Troy Aikman doesn't have Hall of Fame numbers. What he has is a Hall of Fame stretch of winning in Dallas, where he has 3 Super Bowls. Ryan has bigger numbers.
Huh? If Jalen wins this year again, two Super Bowls and 3 appearances, is he in a Hall of Fame conversation then? Because we're talking about quarterbacks. Because I've been told by Dan Cilio on Jacob Sports, even now, that Jalen Hurts, there's no way in hell he'd get selected for the Hall of Fame.
I think you would have to do more winning and probably have more numbers. But again, I think quarterback's a little bit different. If you're a quarterback and you're winning Super Bowls with an S, like Aaron Rodgers has one, and he's one of the greatest to ever do it, probably top 5 ever to do it, right? Troy Aikman is nowhere near that guy's league, but he's got 3 Super Bowls. That's going to put you in. Eli Manning has 2. I don't think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think Phillip Rivers is better than him, but I'll tell you what, Eli Manning's going to get into the Hall of Fame because he has 2 rings. And Phillip Rivers probably won't get there, even though I think he's had the better career, the better passing numbers, and is just the better quarterback. But those 2 rings carry that much more weight. Jalen Hurts is the same way. Like, there are quarterbacks who are better than Jalen Hurts in the Hall of Fame who have played before him. Those 2 rings, if he wins a second one, is going to carry that much more weight for him in particular versus another player.
Also because he's a pioneer. He would have won back-to-back playing the football game in a different style, breaking a glass ceiling that everyone gave him as well.
And also having the play, the tush push being banned the year after, you know what I'm saying? Like that's, I think that also
the push go into the Hall of Fame,
right? Exactly.
That's plays can go into the Hall of Fame. Yeah, and we're gonna start talking about Nick Sirianni going into the Hall of Fame as well.
I was gonna say if he has another Super Bowl in his resume,
that's the funny because if you go back and listen to the way people talk about this guy while he's still coaching,
me included, think
he's the worst coach in the NFL.
me included. There are times where I've been like,
see that's my thing, right? I'm the opposite of hyperbolic, even though I sound like it. Like that's what I feel like my job is. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into getting behind one of these and speaking about sports is because I feel like I need to stick up and speak the truth about things that people are avoiding on purpose to fit their argument.
Right.
It's not like these people don't know these things.
No, of course
they're doing it on purpose because it doesn't fit their argument. So that's kind of what I'm always going to do. I'm always going to poke that bruise that people don't want to have be touched. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Particularly with this Hall of Fame conversation, because again, I think my point being is that because again, I just don't think the Super Bowls matter as much to players at other positions like wide receiver, running back, cornerback, safety, like got players like that, linebackers. I don't think Super Bowls matter to them as much as having the accolades, having the all pros, having the tackles, having the sacks, having the touchdowns, catches, yardage. Tyreek Hill is another guy who, again, in Kansas City was one of the most prolific players that we've seen in the NFL.
But what happened to him when he went to Miami?
He ended up having had some great 1,700-yard seasons that added to his lore.
But he'd won his ring. I guess you can say that's the argument for AJ to leave, maybe.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But what's Tyreek doing now? Like, he's had to sit there and watch his quarterback continuously not be able to be available to play football games.
Yes, but before his catastrophic injury, it's not Miami was not losing games because Tyreek Hill wasn't excellent.
No,
you know what I mean. And he was still putting up.
But he's not playing in the. That's the thing. AJ has a chance to play in the most televised ball games with the biggest spotlight.
But he's not
every
getting
single week.
But he's not getting the ball, and he's not being featured in the offense. And
I by the way, think that's premature because I think he is going to start getting the ball Like he played in the
What
Minnesota
evidence do
Vikings
we
game.
have over the past year
The
and a half?
Minnesota Vikings game, because I said
That was Devontae.
Kevin changed
though.
No, but he was also AJ's game. What was AJ's stat line? Because I
He
believe
had
AJ
4
also
for
went
121, but all of those catches were on broken plays.
121.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that AJ Brown's not a great receiver. That's not the question here. That's not the topic. The point being is I think AJ Brown's frustration, because I know we were talking about the Hall of Fame, but his frustration with the offense and why I believe he's making all this noise and why we're having the conversation about his legacy versus team success is because he's not being featured in the offense as the number one option receiver. Plays are being drawn up in this offense to get Saquon Barkley going, to get Dallas Goedert involved in the offense, to even get Devontae Smith the football, and AJ somehow is being cast aside. The route concept.
I don't think he's being cast aside. I think you got to give credit. You also got to give credit to the defensive coordinator.
Of course, they always double
AJ.
What
are they scheming for? What are they trying to take out of the football
game? There's no doubt about it. You try to stop AJ.
So if we're going to be stubborn and feed AJ the ball if he's in double coverage, and there's a wide open Devontae, there's a wide open Dallas Goedert, there's a wide open Jahan Dotson, Saquon can break something open. We've got so many weapons. Sorry, you're on a great team with a lot of great players, my friend. And I understand where you're coming from, but I just think for him, he just needs to just trust the process. Like nothing but good things has happened to him since he traded Tennessee for Philadelphia.
That's fair too. And and again, in the grand scheme of things, I agree with you. I think he does need to kind of chill with it, but his frustrations are valid. And I mean, and if you look at some of the route concepts that they try to have him run to get him open, it's all comebacks, it's all streaks, it's all slants and outs.
This comes back to my trading conversation here. So we can talk about Hall of Fame or not Hall of Fame, but the true crux of the conversation right now is, do we want to keep him or do we want to ship out? And this is what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to get into a room with Howie, probably with Patullo as well, because so he understands what Patullo has planned, probably with Jalen, probably with obviously Nick, because he's the head coach, and any of the other decision makers of the Philadelphia Eagles. And they need to ask him questions, and he needs to ask them questions. His question is going to be, what is my role going to be? What is your plan to utilize me for the rest of the season?
Mm-hmm.
And then they have to ask, what do you want, AJ, this season? How can we help you? And if those two things aren't aligned, if the Eagles say, look, with all due respect, AJ, we've got a lot of other players who also on this football team who also want the ball. Devontae wants the ball. Dallas wants the ball. We got one of the greatest running back in NFL, or not this season, but last season.
Yeah, one of the best running backs for sure.
Right. But you're not always going to be the focal point, because at the end of the day, the Eagles might be like, look, you might want the ball, but are we going to sacrifice victories? We're going to sacrifice something that works and go outside. Because one of the things this Philadelphia Eagles team one thing that's been critical of it on our worst times is that when we forced ourselves, by the way, when AJ was getting his way, we were throwing the ball, even though it wasn't working for us. And we were losing games because the meltdown, 2023.
That was also coupled with the worst play calling and coaching change that we've seen. And he did have the 6-game stretch of a 125.
But there's also the same season where people had sitting outside the Notebook Care complex with signs saying, run the damn ball.
Touché.
We had this strength of this great offensive line, and we had DeAndre Swift, by the way, who was having a half decent season.
It was a career year for him. It was.
Yeah, correct. And we were forcing him the ball. And our offense got very, very, very predictable to the point where people were sitting there on the Manning cast. Christian McCaffrey was sitting there on the Manning
running
cast
back
saying,
was reading our offense.
The Eagles are going to do this. The Eagles are going to do this. And lo and behold, the Eagles did exactly as how he was. I watched that, and because sometimes I like to watch.
It's an amazing clip, honestly. You look at that and you're just like, holy shit. Like, you got it.
But what the Eagles did is move away from that, make us a little bit more unpredictable, because we got so many. When the minute you add Saquon Barkley in there, you have defenses who are like, holy crap, who do I defend? And there are days where AJ is going to have a great ball, but he's on a great team. and he needs to be able to feel comfortable with being on a great team and realizing what that's about. If he doesn't want to be on that, that's where I'm coming back to this meeting, right? If we've said all that and AJ goes, that doesn't work for me, right? In that scenario, I have to move on from him.
Hey! Thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles Podcast.